right. Yes. Enos, how was your week?
My week was okay.
Uh,
Was fair, just a little bit busy.
uh, just it's a
Yeah,
bit busy.
yeah.
Did you go through the changes?
Yeah, I went through the changes.
Yeah.
Pretty comprehensive though.
Uh,
I had not got I've not yet got time to work on it.
mm,
There's some other project that I was working on,
mm,
and it had like a very short time
mm,
frame.
mm,
Yeah, but I went through them,
mm.
and yeah, a lot of them made.
Yes. So anyway, when you go through, you can return. Then we go through again like that. So
Yes,
because
so
for you to literally get a very good user experience at the end of the day, you need to first and foremost think about the kind of uh, journey that other people will be taking
yeah,
as they
true.
actually access your work. So it's always important for you to always think about the how easy it will be for them to actually accomplish a certain task.
Mm.
And you realize
Yeah,
that on the web we are always reading, so it's always reading here and there. So it's always good to for the text not to be a lot, as we shall be going through anyway, because it's actually in the last part, yeah. So it's going to be we're going to have a UX audit, so that is something we shall go over. So I'll go over those comments, then you'll get to understand them better, and then you'll get to know how to act upon them. So that is
yeah,
something that we shall go through at the end of this specific workshop. So um, let's just continue. So yeah, welcome. This is our fourth workshop. Uh, I always promise to give you links to the previous workshops, but you can check out my LinkedIn page. They are the featured items under my profile. So yeah, you can get us free links over there. So in this workshop, we have prepared a lot for you. So as we are always preparing. We're always preparing meals throughout the week. Here and there, we're always writing, trying to visualize this information regarding user experience design, because as I told you, people need to know. We need to create awareness so that guys can get to buy into this ideology of making sure that people consume really good products that make them feel good, because away from consuming a product, how it makes you feel, regardless of the amount you're paid, it has to leave a very good positive impact after using it. So that's why we created these workshops, so that we can always take you through the different information that we've prepared throughout the week in our weekly buffet. We always preparing meals here and there. So our weekly buffet is just a combination of all, the information we've created under the UX tunes and then the UX board. So on top of that, we also create an article, to make sure that some of this information is really highlighted out. And on top of that, again, we came up with these workshops so that this information can be interacted with, through hearing and then watching, because we eventually produce a recording for the workshop, a video recording together with an audio recording. So whoever does miss out, you can always go back and then get to know what really happened in this specific workshop. So I welcome you once again. Thank you so much for being able to attend this fourth workshop. In this workshop, I also go over all the information I created under the UX Stones. And then most of its information is usually paid for, because I usually give out like half of that information, especially under the UX tunes, together with the recordings. But then half of the episodes are like paid for, maybe half of the content under each specific episode. Those are like 2 frames. So the first 2 frames under each specific episode are free. Then the last 2 episodes are paid for, and they're just $2. So they're literally for free. So I believe people will get to know information, and then they'll start mentioning it. So I'm going to be taking you through this information that we created under the UX Chefs Weekly Buffet. So before that, I'm going to first of all introduce myself, and then I'll tell you about the UX Chefs, and then you get to introduce yourself, and then we shall get started. This weekly buffet is a combination of the information that we create throughout the week, and besides that, we make sure that this information is actually highlighted out, quite well, because we realized, usually, first and foremost, people consume information differently. You might find out that someone finds it easier to read, others find it easier to consume visuals, and others find it easier to actually, just read. Others find it easier to just listen. So we make sure that we create information to cover up for all those needs, and for all these different individuals that consume this information differently. So that is why we came up with this workshop, to make sure that we help out with people that are interested, first and foremost, with starting out with UI UX design, and then getting to understand what this field is all about, because there are so many misconceptions out there. People usually you know think that UI UX is just graphic design, or maybe UI is the same as UX. So some people think that UI is the same as UX, or UX is UI. So there are so many misconceptions out there. But regardless, UX, these are just experiences. So and the experiences can be, you can experience them anywhere at any time, whether you are at the hospital, waiting for your medication, whether you somewhere in a queue at the bank waiting for your money, you know, so you always experience, something. So that is where UX comes in, and the design uh, bit of it usually confuses people, because they usually wonder, how can I make sure that I get to understand the design bit of it, as well as the the actual sort of like way of understanding what are these experiences. Welcome, Ben. Welcome to our weekly workshop. Thank you so much for joining. So, still telling you about this weekly workshop. So it's just a combination of information we usually prepare. So I'm going to introduce myself, then you guys will introduce yourselves. Then we shall kick in for session one. Then after the session one, we shall go in for session two. So just to introduce myself, I'm Rogers Mukaaya. Um, the founder of UX Chefs. UX Chefs is just a group of creatives. We have um, a bunch of graphic designers, web designers, UI UX designers, together with software engineers. We have around 2 software engineers now. So together we solve business design problems. So as a group, we are sure that with this combined knowledge, we can tackle challenges here and there. So that is what we do. But besides that, we made sure that first and foremost, for us to be able to do that, we need to first of all create awareness. We need to tell people about what UI UX is all about, because there are so many misconceptions, and people take this field for literally, and you find out that design is not really given a chance in so many areas, and in so many uh, you know once it comes to the way products are built, like in so many teams, so many companies, design is thought of as the last option, or people don't usually, invest that much time in design because they do not understand really the details or what it entails and its essence. And why should they be even caring? So that's why we're here, first and foremost, to have this specific workshop. So, just I have introduced myself. I'm Rogers Mukaaya. I work at Impact Africa Network as a product designer. We build startups, so we do make people creators and owners. So through fellowships, so these fellowships that are always happening, and then people actually come up with ideas, and then one of my roles is to make sure that those ideas are supported design wise until they are actually produced and then consumed. So essentially that's what I do away from the UX chef. So that is me. So I invite to introduce himself, and Ben, you can introduce yourself and you can actually continue. So you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. So Enos Cheza. I'm a software developer. Initially, I was more focused on the back end, Python and Django, but I decided to go full stack. So I'm currently learning full stack tech like React, and I knew a bit of CSS, the first languages for front end, but then I had to upgrade a bit. So I'm currently focused on improving my front end skills, and that's why workshops like this will come in handy. Like they're very much helpful to me. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much. Ben.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
hear me?
yeah, yes.
Cool. So my name is Ben Anzuchamazi. You can call me Ben. I am a backend engineer, currently primarily focusing on distributed systems in .NET and C Sharp. And I'm just curious about design. That's all. So I'm here. Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. So let's just jump in. So essentially, this workshop is just meant to just take us through the information created throughout the week. So first and foremost, we created these hashtags that we use to sort of like create UI UX design information. And then we use these tags to make sure that someone can actually check out our information through these tags and follow them so that they can easily access this information. So the first hashtag is the UX Tunes. This is just sort of like a comic that is produced like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we produce a different episode. And these cartoonish sort of like UX design conversations, it's just sort of like a way of producing information that I think that goes without being talked about, because a lot of information actually goes without being captured through these casual conversations people usually have, like in the office, like when you are at at your place, the restaurant, anywhere. You usually have these conversations with yourself or maybe with anyone, your workmate, your friend, your spouse, anyone. So usually have these conversations, and to me, I think that is valuable information. And if at all someone can actually capture that information somehow, and then they sort of like find a way of presenting it like in an interesting manner, then people can actually consume it. So that is why the UX tones comes into existence. It's just a way of creating cartoons and then making sure that they are in a conversational dialogue. And these conversations are about UX design, UI design, interactive design, together with user experience in general. Because you realize that user experience, it infiltrates into everything we do. We're always experiencing things. Once you're using your computer, your phone, once you're interacting with anything, literally. That toothbrush you use, the water you use, that the kind of water you use, it makes you feel differently. So you can imagine like experiences everywhere, and you realize that right now it's now all about making sure that the experiences that people consume through these digital devices are also good and favorable, and they're enjoyable to make things a little bit better. Because if at all you just do something and people are not actually enjoying it, then you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. People are not actually getting any sort of like fulfillment, because you realize that you can accomplish a task, but then if at all you do not gain any sort of like feeling that sort of like makes you realize the value that you've gotten out of accomplishing that something, then sometimes you can actually forget about that something that you did. But if at all there are emotions being triggered here and there after accomplishing something, then you realize that you can actually follow up on that specific something, and then you can actually gain more value. You realize that products that have us hooked have endless value. You might realize that someone can give you the same product, but in like 1,000 ways. For example, popular products, for example, like Facebook, WhatsApp, you find out that initially it was just one thing, but now there are billion things that you can do with this platform. So it can show you that people usually have minds that go beyond the value you give them. So, and you can actually build onto that. So you realize that these companies are now using our feelings to come up with more ways. These companies are actually using our feelings and our emotions to build onto their core products, and then they make more products out of that. So you realize that user experience is really important. So moving away from the UX tool, we have the UX word. So the UX word is just like the user experience part of the day, and for it's also meant to sort of like help you, get to. It's there to help you get to realize that the UX word is there to help you realize that there are specific words that actually make up user experience. In other words, I curated a list of around 300 words that have been continuously used to describe user experience, like descriptions that have been made by the grandfathers of design, the great grandfathers, together with the current practitioners of this specific sort of like exercise. So realize that with this list, I come up, I just pick one word like every Tuesday and Thursday, and then I write a piece of information around that specific word, and then I post that information so that people can actually use these words to sort of like remember what user experience is all about before even designing, because design is just a practice. But before you design, you need to actually understand why you're actually designing. So the UX word is just essentially just words that are meant to remind you of what user experience design is. And the UX Chef's Weekly Buffet, this is just a combination of what we talk about in the UX tones, the UX word, together with the article that we usually come up with every week. So just to continue, I'm going to take you through these words, and then I'm going to take you through the first word, which is understand, and then we shall jump off, then kick in for our second session, and then I'll take you through the next word, then the UX tunes, I'll take you through the article, and then I'll also take you through the the UX audit, and then the book of the week, and then we shall just call it a day. So let's first of all go through this word called understand. So for this word called understand, what happens is here in this specific post, I was trying to sort of like remind you that you sort of like have to come up with things that people actually understand, and for you to interact with anything in regards to product, and for you to actually, experience a specific product, you need to first of all make people understand it. And for you to actually do that, you need to first of all understand what you're actually doing. So you realize that if at all you're familiar with what you're doing, then you can actually translate it into a design, and then the person using that specific design can also actually do the same. They can properly understand. So usually systems that are poorly designed usually cause confusions, and this confusion is usually brought about, by the proper misalignment of, UI elements. You might find out that there is misusage of color, plus other UI problems. But eventually, you realize that these UI problems actually accumulate and, bring about UX problems. And most of these UX problems is the misconceptions when someone actually lands onto your website and they can't actually understand what the website is actually about. When someone actually downloads your product and they can't actually understand what is this product all about or a specific app. So you realize that once someone understands what you're trying to actually communicate, and realize that this understanding is usually brought about by people that have been able to design products that are actually good. One of the examples I can give you is you find out that navigation is one of the main problems as to why the designs actually fail, or products actually have faults. So realize that if I told you design things that are really straightforward without having any confusions, then you will build familiarity with, like, in the eyes of the user. So the ease with which they will be able to consume your UIs will come from a simple reason as to the from the understanding. So once someone is able to understand, then they're able to act. So once you make something really simple, then you make sure that people actually understand it. So that is what I was actually trying to preach a specific word. And I realized that the word understand starts from the designer. Once you understand something, that means you can make your teammates understand it. And during testing, you can make people understand it. And you don't have to actually explain this, because if I told you you're a designer, then you need to actually just show people. You don't need to explain. So how can you make people understand with your visuals? It is through clarity. It is through, ease of navigation. It is through, minimizing all the colors you use, through constant feedback, then people will actually understand. So that is what this word was all about. So let's jump off and then just rejoin this specific link about your session in the chat. Then you can actually continue with session 2. So going back to this slide, I was still telling you that for this specific word, you just need to make sure that everything is just straightforward. Don't make people like overthink. I usually give an example of I was reading about a book called User Friendly, and that is actually going to be the book of the week. But regardless, I was reading that book, and there's a line I read whereby I think it was in the First World War, whereby people were actually dying, like pilots of the fighter jets were actually dying because of the problems that were in those fighter jets, especially with the control. So someone was unable to actually land a fighter jet because, one, the lever that was supposed to actually land was the same lever being used to actually make the jet actually to take off. So literally, when someone is they actually fail to understand something, then it means they'll panic and then they'll actually do the wrong thing. So clarity is really good, and you'll find out that from that incident, machines have been improving because they called upon user experience designers to actually analyze such accidents, including the 3 Mile Island accident, that that reactor accident that really killed a lot of people. It was all about poor understanding of the control system or the control panels that were supposed to alert people of what was actually happening in this nuclear power plant. So you realize that if I told you design something and it's unclear, then there's so many problems that actually come with that. So moving on to the next word. The next word is works. So let's just go to that specific word. So for this word, I was just trying to remind people that you cannot actually start testing for user experience in a circumstance whereby the product you're having isn't working or it's not actually functioning. For this word works, you realize that usually you cannot quantify the amount or the kind of experience you're actually giving to people with a product that doesn't work. So that is where user experience actually infiltrates into everything that we do, including making things work. And that is the role of you, the guys of the back end. So you realize that once you're developing a product, usually developers usually leave the experience bit of it to the designers, and they forget that they can also build the experience through their code. So you realize that once you account for the way people will feel once they're interacting with the kind of product you've made that works, then that means you can qualitatively and quantitatively measure the kind of experience they're actually getting. So you realize that you can make sure that first and foremost you have something working, and it doesn't actually take long to actually come up with something working. You can actually create a prototype, regardless, let it be on a paper, for as long as someone actually is able to actually use it. And using sometimes doesn't involve like the hands. You can use something like in your mind. You can, test out something in your mind, whether it works or not, by actually looking at it. And then, through that process, you can actually gain feedback. You have to make sure that something actually adds up. Then you have to actually work, essentially. Alicia, thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. So let's just continue. I think Alicia, you just introduce yourself like maybe at the end. So moving on, you realize that you always have to make sure that the designs you're thinking about will eventually add up. You don't have to like think of like the design elements alone. You always have to make sure that you always think of the end result, or how someone is actually going to interact with the specific design, so that you can get into the habits of one, testing. Because just like I told you, testing starts from the mind, and then you can invite others to actually test for you, and then the actual users can actually come in and test that specific product. So that is the essence of making sure that you put this word into your mind, because you realize that people usually wait. Like, I really need to make sure that this thing works. Then I can eventually make sure that I put it out, or I ask for feedback. And you realize that feedback is really crucial for you to come up with products that will help the eventual user or the end user. Because once you get feedback, in the early stages, once you've thought of how your thing will work, then people will eventually tell you that these won't be able to actually work for us, or this will work for us, or you can actually change this, add this in the early stages, or when the product hasn't been fully developed. But with the mere fact that you can actually see, or you can envision how these specific UIs will actually interact together to actually form the actual experiences. Because experiences are not like AI, it's not like air that just blows around. It's a combination of real elements, and then a combination of how those elements come together, and then a combination of how someone actually eventually feels. Because that is the overall essence of actually being able to design and come up with good user experiences. So maybe just reiterate for Alicia, we went through this word called understand, and under this specific post as just going through the essence of making people to clearly get what you actually making them understand. Because confusion is it's a headache once you land onto a website and it's not clear, and there's a lot of confusion. And this confusion doesn't only end like online. It's everywhere once you're using a product that is not straightforward. Because the essence of user experience design, it is not to make people think, because you realize that essentially design is already there. Like design essentially exists, but the mere fact that you have to think about the end person, like the end user, and how they're going to feel, like that end feeling, not the actual product. So anyway, regardless, I was telling you about the essence of understanding, and the essence of making sure that you truly understand what user experience is. Because I usually give this example of Disneyland, and you realize that when you read user friendly, the book I'm going to share at the end of this workshop, user friendly, there is that story of Disneyland, where Disney actually wanted to upgrade how it provides this service through a wristband. So essentially, they just want to actually improve the experience of someone who goes to Disney, and to experience all the fun they have. So they were like, what if we come up with an armband that helps someone to, one, just enjoy everything they want without actually, paying a single days. Like by the time you get that wristband, like through maybe an envelope, they email to you once you pay for everything. They just give you that wristband. Once you come, everything starts, automatically serving itself to you. Like, once you go maybe to a specific restaurant there, they know the kind of food you want. They just give it to you without even making a line. Once you want to have some fun somewhere, you just have to, present yourself there without a coupon, without anything, or even a ticket, and you just enjoy the service. But what happened was that what they had envisioned failed, because one, the person that was supposed to actually introduce this was so much interested in, in making sure that people actually enjoy this service conveniently. But the problem came in when the person that was supposed to do this, and the people who are controlling everything within the park, they had a different mindset. For them, they did not envision people serving themselves. Like they did not envision these, like the swings, like bar restaurants, the cinema halls, like the stages, like where you get all these toys to play with. They did not actually envision these things serving themselves to people, and maybe getting to tailor this service to each individual. So they actually didn't have that vision. So eventually, the project failed because of this uncoordinated way of managing how people should actually consume a specific, a specific experience through a specific product. So realize this is why user experience fails. Like you'll find out that the product manager or maybe the owner of the company, they sort of like do not fully believe that they can offer tailored solutions at an affordable price. They believe that maybe people who should consume these other experiences should consume them maybe with, after having paid a premium price or having, done something so that the company can actually increase on its sales. But literally, if at all you give everyone, the best user experience, that means if at all you actually bring in a payment model, you'll find out that so many people will be eager to pay without, first of all, obstructing what they're supposed to pay for, and then, calling it a premium service. But literally, you're just, improving on the user experience, which you can actually make everyone enjoy. And then you can find ways of, making extra money here and there. But at least you should make sure that the base experience, you're providing is literally helping everyone. So that is essentially why we usually remind you that user experience doesn't actually just end with the design. The design itself or the product itself can be working, people can be understanding it, but you realize that there are other forces that have to come together. Like everyone in the organization has to work together to have a shared vision, and this shared vision should be, the end user should have a positive feeling. they shouldn't be able to actually accomplish a specific task. Because anyway, you realize that on the UX curve, this is what they call the UX maturity curve. And under this curve, you realize that companies start by not caring about UX, but they do care about the designs, because usually people want the designs. Even if you told someone, let's do a little bit of user research, let's do a little bit of market analysis, let's do a little bit of this. No, just get me the design. So usually hear people, saying that here and there, but you have to realize that user experience is important. Then from that level, people usually start getting concerned about the next level after, people not caring about UX. The next level that they get to on this UX maturity curve is the level of, first and foremost, getting usability issues. We are going to go through a UX audit at the end of this specific workshop. So just be assured that I'll take you through this. But on this next level, you realize that people start getting usability issues. People usually get issues and then they complain, and then the call center is usually busy at that moment. Clients usually complain, bugs, design bugs, front-end bugs, back-end bugs, all are bugs. And usually these bugs are usually seen on the screen. So usually usability issues come in, and then people have to fix these things. And then the third level is the level which I think people should start setting up specialists within their teams to start analyzing and giving usability audits, and trying to build experiences on top of the products that they've built. And they usually realize that this calls for redesigns. That is why I hear people saying that we need to redesign this. That just means that these people they didn't account for the user experience that is supposed to be part of the product while designing it. So, and then maybe on the fourth or fifth level, this is where these companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. This is where these companies are. They know that user experience is the business. It's the business of the day. Once you make someone feel good, they can't forget you. They remember you. They will tell their friend about it. Their friend will tell their friend, and their friend will tell their friend. And that's how people make money. So that is it for the UX word. Let me just take you through the UX tones. The UX tones, we added 3 episodes. That was episode 11, 12, and 13. And for the UX tones, it's just a matter of, trying to tell you about user experience design, but in a conversational way. Like, because usually you might think that how you consume information, really matters. Some people prefer consuming the information through looking at search visuals. And then some people, search visuals actually annoy them and they prefer reading. That's why we came up with the UX weekly article together with the UX word, just like I showed you here. But regardless, we also came up with sort of like a cartoonish way so that people who love just seeing or reading small paragraphs that are accompanied by these specific illustrations can also actually enjoy. So let me just take you through episode 11. I was still telling you that UX tones, it's just a matter of putting together these cartoons, and then we write a piece of information around that specific cartoon, and then every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we actually publish a specific episode. And we usually give out only 2 frames for free. The other 2 frames are only $2. But if I told you I attend this weekly workshop, I take you through the information, like as a whole, like everything, like both the paid screens together with the free screen. So just stick around and I'll take you through these 3 episodes, and I'll take you through the UX article, the UX weekly, book of the week, and then we shall go into questions. Then we shall call it a day. But moving on, I'm going to take you through episode 11. So for episode 11, you realize that John is in a meeting, and design is not usually given attention, and I can testify that because I've been a designer. Been I've done graphic design, I've done digital marketing, I've done web design, I've gotten into UI UX design. Then I've also done front-end development. So I realized that people don't usually care about design, but if at all they do, then this is how maybe design should be treated. Like design should be given a chance. Designers need to sit on the table with other teammates because just like I told you, that Disneyland story for the wristband that had like a chip that would help you consume all the services, and they would know that it's now Rogers that has come, and Rogers likes eating ABCD. They had all this data, and all they did was to sort of like make sure that once they know who Rogers is, they can know that Rogers likes eating ABCD. He likes these ABCD swings. He likes this type of coffee. So services would just come to you, and you would wonder And then maybe to just continue that story a little bit. That same guy that was supposed to implement that wristband implemented it for a ship company, like these ship cruises, like these ships that usually cruise around, like these ships that that are really huge and have all these things that people need to enjoy life: the swimming pool, the casinos, the saunas, theaters. So you just board and enjoy. So what happened was that this guy sold that idea to that ship company, and the owner bought it, and it worked. And like the writer tells you that what they had to do is they had to remodel everything, like from the person that welcomes you to the ship. They had to like remodel their responsibilities because services are changing. With the way you provide them, you need to really understand who has come into your business, and you need to make sure that everyone truly understands that your number one role now is to make sure that you provide the best user experience from the person, from the receptionist to the cleaner to everyone that interacts with your service or product. Every touch point. You realize that some businesses miss out because you realize that they had a problem, maybe because of the person at the gate. It was rude with a specific client. Then this client just goes on tarnishing the name of the business. But you can imagine, and you might find out that maybe this client hadn't even bought anything. They had just come to maybe book. And then the gatekeeper is all rude. And they're like, oh, I think this business has rude people. All the way to the director. I think you can see. This really happens in normal life, but it's the same thing that actually happens once it comes to digital products. Like design and the true essence of a user experience has to filtrate through all the departments, and design needs to be given a seat at the planning table. So that's why we come up with this specific illustration. And here John, he's asked if at all he really needs someone to help him, because I realized that some companies usually have like 10 developers, but with like one designer. It usually happens. Like I've worked with like some teams that have so many engineers, so many developers, so many architects, so many people data analysts, AI engineers, all these people that build these emails, have all these people, one designer. And then you wonder, like, why? You realize that people have, like, they have to truly understand that, one, the essence of design has to filtrate, like, throughout, like, everyone in the team has to get to know that design is essential. And you realize that sometimes design is not truly, given any essence, because someone can tell you that just give us his screens and then you can go. Like, just give us his designs and then you can go. Like, they literally take you off of the planning process and then they later on return and they tell that the design didn't work. But you're supposed to be around when these decisions to change your design, are happening. So that is why, we advocate that we advocate for designers to be part of these meetings. So essentially, this episode was about asking for help. We ask designers to ask for help, and we also encourage team managers, people who manage teams, to always hire more designers depending on the scope of the project. Because you might think that a designer is supposed to only give you visuals, and then you only hire one, and then you find out that at the end you need more visuals, and then he's frustrated, and then he can't focus. He can't maybe find out what is really happening outside of the type of work he's doing, so that he can act better. Yes, thank you so much, Alfred, for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for having you. You together with Alicia, you'll introduce yourselves at the end. But regardless, let's move on. I was still taking you through the UX tones. Alfred, you've joined late, but I'm going to take you through just a summary of what we've talked about at the end. So just pick up from where you can. So moving forward, by the way, Alfred, I'm taking you through episode 11 of the UX Tones. So, and in this episode, I'm advocating for designers to ask for help and for team managers to realize that designers are like any other person on the team. They also need to have other teammates, like to help them out and to also bring a better perspective and thinking to the team. Because if you only have one designer, they're going to give you the same thing throughout. They won't bring you maybe new ideas, maybe a new type of thinking, and then so that you can do business, so that your business can actually grow. But if at all you only have one, they will, they might not be able to, to correlate with the project because they have no partner. Like imagine working on a project with no partner, or imagine going out to have fun without a partner. I know working is not like partying, but it is sort of like the same thing. It's also an activity and it involves people, and people need to have each other. So if at all you're a designer out there and you're struggling with a specific project that is actually stretching you, please don't fear asking for help. Always reach out to the project managers, to the project owners, to your seniors, team members, team leads, other people that actually do not do design can also understand. So always reach out. So now this one is like a manager to John. So he asks John that, John, do you really need another designer? So, John is like the project is actually growing and I will need some help. So do not fear asking for help. Always come in and ask for more help. If I told you need it, and this help might not be with the UIs, it might be with maybe with the creativeness. You can actually ask your team lead to maybe have an intern, or maybe have someone working part-time, like maybe some 4 hours, 2 hours, a senior, someone to help you with your work. So don't die alone, don't die alone over there with the work. Reach out. That is what this episode was all about. And then you'll find out that there are some people who will always point out reasons as to why designers don't need help. For example, someone can point out the reasons why they don't need another designer. For example, someone can be like, we have no money for that. Someone can burst out. Maybe, and that is why designers are not actually allowed in these planning meetings, because they will tell them things that will hurt them. And I think emotions shouldn't be the reason as to why you fail to ask for help or fail to highlight out the issues that are within the kind of work you're doing. And getting frustrated or being stretched is one of those issues. Someone might be like, oh, maybe we need another designer to speed up the process of designing, but you don't. Sometimes You just need someone that is going to give you maybe a better way of thinking about something. But when they are able to also indulge in that specific activity. So, always, there will be people who will point out reasons. For example, like there's like enough money to help us get another designer. Make sure that you resist, such individuals, and always ask for hope. But on the other hand, there would be people who will be able to fight for designers. They'll be able to ask questions. For example, if at all, the designer is being stretched and he's won, and if at all he asks for hope and there isn't this hope, then you also have to ask yourself as a team member, or maybe as a developer, as an engineer on this planning team, like, why are we doing certain things, yet we don't have the resources? Because if at all you can't do a specific thing for yourself, then do not expect to bother someone else to do it, even if you're paying them. If I told you add on the amount of work, that means you also need to add on the compensation so that they can work in a fair manner. Because you realize that how designers work is usually influenced by so many things. First, by the type of salary they get, but away from that, how they feel at work is really important. Because you might be paying someone a very, like an amount that is not maybe adding up to maybe the industry standard. But then how you treat them and how you reason with them might be actually the reason as to why they continuously work for you. And they hope you achieve your goals because you're an understanding person. So I urge non-designers to always feel the way designers feel, because they also need hope and they're always stretched. So that is why I created this episode, to help you truly understand, why do you need hope? And this one as to why you actually need to ask for it. So, and to also point out that designers need a seat on the planning table. So moving on, let me take you through episode 12. So for episode 12, you realize that this episode was about planning. So usually designers like jumping into these tools. Like someone just starts designing from nowhere. Like you start designing and then you ask yourself, where am I in terms of this designing? Or if at all you experience a specific difficulty, you can ask yourself, what went wrong? What happened here and there? So as a designer, always, first of all, step aside, away from your specific computer. You can maybe go outside of the office, or maybe you can seek out a more comfortable area where you're not, experiencing any discomfort or maybe any sort of like noise, so that you can actually think about the type of design you're going to make. Because it is actually very easy to jump into Figma and then you start designing. You come up with anything that you want. Because these tools do not actually, know the kind of problems you are solving. In my recent article yesterday, I wrote about, having to design, like having to design without tools, first and foremost. But before that, you have to realize that no one cares about the kind of tools you use. So I was writing about the fact that you as a designer, you're the only person who cares about how you come up with the final end result. Because no one is going to go over your work and they redo it for you. So why would anyone care about how you actually work? And how you work is dependent on the tools you use. So instead of finding out how you're going to work by first and foremost, stepping onto like your computer and then opening up Figma or opening up Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or any other tool to actually execute a specific design. You can decide to first and foremost step aside. Step aside for a bit. Ask yourself, what am I doing? Which type of work is this? What is needed at the end? And how is this design going to look like? Because I've already told you that you can start designing from your head. Yes, you can start designing from your head. And that is actually going to be the article I'm going to take you through. You don't need that tools. You realize that in the ancient days, people design. Leonardo da Vinci used to design on papers. Like, although a paper can be a tool together with a pencil, but even before that, in the medieval store, like the medieval, the Stone Age period, I studied about the civilization. You realize that it's called the Mesopotamian civilization, like the first civilization. You can't tell me these tools were there, but people managed to accomplish their daily tasks. So always get into the habit of thinking about the kind of design you have to come up with. And most importantly, the kind of problem you're solving. Because you realize that it is through this thinking that we build up, the kind of solution in our heads. And then we can actually transfer that solution from our heads to the specific tools we are using. And then we actually make it come alive, through by using the tools. But you can't make something come alive by the tool itself. You will gamble around. I'm telling you, you'll gamble around, and then eventually you will have to come back, analyze the design, redesign, and then have like a billion versions of one design. So always step aside and then sketch. I think one day I'll prepare a physical workshop, and then I'll come along with my sketchbooks. I'll be able to show you sketchbooks that I've had since 2016. So for me, I've been sketching my ideas out and realized that I've been developing on some of these ideas because I believe that once you put something down, like on a paper, on a piece of paper, and not actually not on a piece of paper, because you will throw that paper away when you're shifting into a better house. Usually, when we are living, yes. Oh, Alicia left. But usually when we are leaving, we usually leave these papers. So or a sketch in your sketchbook. So then after sketching, you can actually come onto your computer and start, making these ideas better. So that was it for episode 12. So let me take you through episode 13, then you can go in for our article, and then we can actually go in for our UX audit. So for episode 13, you realize that episode 13 was actually about these AI tools that we use. As a designer, you realize that it is actually very easy to start using these AI tools. Like AI is everywhere now, and it's like the hot topic. If I tell someone that I can do for you this using AI, I can, wash your clothes using AI. I can, I don't know, like all the weird things. Uh, so designers, I urge you to always resist like diving in straight into AI, because AI is going to mislead you. It is going to show you that solutions are really easy to actually, get to, and you will, realize that the process is, foregone, because you realize that okay, I've used a couple of AI tools. I've used Midjourney for creating visuals. I've used ChatGPT for creating text to run away from the dummy text that we usually use as designers. I've used some tools for creating landing pages, like some AI tools whereby you just provide it with the text and then it can show you like the type of website that it has come up with for you, and then you can actually just use it. So I also came up with a list of the design tools that you can use. And I think I'll also be sharing that next time. But regardless, I'm just taking you through this specific episode 13. So in this episode, John, is maybe trying to sort of like come up with a color palette, a style guide, trying to come up with all these elements we use to design. And then, as you know, even the company is now trying to advertise their AI tools. So you can even get a notification now of an AI telling you that it can do for you like your designs, like it can, make for you the design. And you have to be curious. You have to be curious as a designer, For me, I'm a designer, but I don't look at myself as a designer, essentially. I look at myself as a person that is here to make other people's lives better. And for you to do that, you cannot just do that with design. Because if that was the case, then designs would literally, I don't know, it would literally be like the thing that you can use to essentially accomplish a problem. Like design as an end solution would be the only thing that you would use. So you have to know that design as an end solution is not like the only thing that you're supposed to use to build these experiences. You also have to have a knowing of how user experiences are built, or how designs are built. Like you have to have an understanding of the elements. Now, let me just tell you this here. I'm writing a book. It's called Designing from Scratch. It's going to like show you like how do you start designing and how do you get like that design you're supposed to design. Because some people think that design is all about laying rectangles on the screen, and that mentality is everywhere. And as UX chefs, I think with all this information, we believe that those minds will start thinking otherwise. So in that book, I'll be highlighting out one, what is design away from the visuals we see? Like, how do you get to design? Like, what is design thinking? Like, in the simplest terms, how do you start from a simple thought to a line, to a rectangle, to a form, to a feature, to a website? How do you move from there? Like, how do you get from zero, like all the way, like to all these things we see, colors, and all those things? So, in that book, I've read so many books about design, but I think people usually aim for complexity. Like, that is it. Like, if at all a book has like some mysterious things, like words, methodologies, interviews, like there isn't like ease. And you realize that experiences, like good user experiences, are built on ease. Like things should explain themselves. If you read the book I actually told you about in my first weekly workshop, I talked about a book called The Design of Everyday Things. And in that book, like the design of everyday things, Don Norman actually talks about, like design away from like the items themselves. What does design like a company away from the items we see? So as a designer, what I'm trying to drive it towards is look at design beyond the physical elements you see, like these elements you can interact with. Ask yourself, what are these elements made of? Because this is the same question I asked myself when I was actually starting out with design. I asked myself, like, what is design made of? What is design about? Those are the kind of questions I was asking myself. And it is true that I've realized that I'm improving. It is through asking myself, what is the back end of design? Because people think that design has only a front end. It also has a back end. And the back end is the critical thinking behind it. I realized that John, after being told maybe by this AI bot that it can help him with his designs, he gets curious. And he's like, how will you do that? And then it tells him, just type in these textbooks. AI tools, like, you know, these models that have been built off of like really huge databases are now using a simple textbooks, a simple text input box to sort of like collect information and then displaying, results. So as a designer, you shouldn't look at that as what you should actually really rush out into doing. You should use that to help you come up with better results, but after thinking about those results. Because you realize in episode 11, John moves away from his computer and he thinks about the kind of designs he's going to come up with. And then what happens is, if I told you, have that habit of like moving away from the computer and then getting to actually think about how your designs come about. Like, what is the inner making, or like, what are these designs going to contain? How are they going to be molded? Then you can come up with better results. So you can even resist the urge of moving directly into tools. And these tools are not like maybe Figma, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Canva, all those nice design tools. These days, AI, like these models, are also tools now. Like, you don't have to like maybe get into that tool and like use it. By typing into that tool, you're interacting with it. You're designing literally with your words. So you have to resist that. And that is like jumping into designing immediately without thinking. So always resist, always resist. So at the end, always resist and get curious. At the end, always ask more questions. And these questions should be about the final user. It doesn't matter whether you build something using an AI or you build it using, I don't know, like magic. The overall experience should be positive, efficient, effective, and easy to use. Like, someone should have that feeling of, yes, I have gotten something out of this and it has left a positive impact on me. Like, that is the ultimate goal of user experience. And AI, like an AI cannot know about your clients. It cannot know how your clients felt the last time they used your product, the last time they visited your website. And AI cannot know that. Even if you put, bots, on your website, of course, these bots already exist. Google Analytics has these bots that give you the numbers of how your website is actually doing. Who is visiting it? Where are they from? What are they doing? What are they clicking? There are heat maps these days that show the areas where people usually interact, the most on your website. So if at all you have all that information cannot tell you how someone felt. The only way you can know is to ask for feedback, and they can tell you, and the AI can't help you with that. So that means that you, as the designer, you always have to ask for feedback. You always have to have that knowing. You always have to have the upper hand of what is actually happening, so that you can have control. The more control you have, the better designs you'll make. So moving on, we want to take you through the article of the week that we created. Now, for this article, just like I've been taking you through all this information, and if at all you're curious enough, you will realize that this information is connecting to each other. all the way from the UX word, the UX twins, the UX chief's article of the week. And finally, you're going to also find out that the book of the week is also related to this information. So, moving on, our article was trying to remind you that you have to first of all design from your mind before diving into Figma. You realize that your mind is the greatest weapon. Like the mind is the greatest weapon you will have in this world. Let's first of all visit this specific article. So as it's loading, I'll still telling you about the mind. Now, the mind is a very powerful weapon, and as a designer, if you realize that, and if you accept it, and if you realize that there is no tool that is better than your mind, then you will be able to design things that will be for people, not for yourself, because realize that we're actually here to serve. So we do not usually do things for ourselves. We do them for others because they're also doing the same thing. They are doing things for us. So it is just like you give me, I give you. But as an individual, don't take on that mentality. First give. Always be getting the habit of giving first, and then you request later. So how do you design from your mind, first and foremost, before diving into Figma? You do that by one, considering users first. Users will always come first, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter, I don't know, like what you think about. Because in this world, there are people, we are not aliens. And this is not planet Mars or maybe Jupiter or any other planet. This is the planet of life. And people are the ones that make up this planet together with other living organisms. But realize that people are always like the number one thing that should always come first. Once you're designing, don't think about the tools. Don't think about anything. Think about the final user. Who is he? Where does he live? What does he like consuming? How did he feel last night? What did he do last night? Where is he right now? What is he thinking? What will he want tomorrow? How will his life be in the next week, in the next month, in the next year, 10 years from now? How will he be? How will he be behaving? What will be his characteristics? This is what they call user experience. User experience is about asking yourself, how will people feel while using this thing? You first feel that feeling, then you can mold it and pass it on to others through your designs, through the code you write, through whatever you do, be it selling a product, be it delivering a product, be it working at the gate, be it packaging the product. Every touch point is an experience you add. How you behave as a designer will also help you to understand the kind of people you are actually serving when you put yourself in the user's shoes. That is what they actually mean by putting yourself in the user's shoes or wearing them if at all they fit you. But they should fit you. Why not? You should find a shoe that fits you because I'm sure there's always you share a specific shoe size with someone else. Away from design, I like reading about psychology and listening to to sort of like psychological lectures, most especially regarding thought, the human mind, how we think, and how the mind works. And away from that, I also read about spirituality, but in the context of having to think for yourself, and like what is the essence of life anyway. So that is like what really interests me about spirituality, like the essence of life. So there's somewhere where I had a speaker saying that we are literally here to serve others. And if I told you accept that you literally here to serve. And what that means is you have to think about who you're serving, so that you can know what to serve them, how to serve them, when to serve them, where to serve them from. So if at all you actually have this kind of thinking, because that is the essence of this workshop, to sort of like give you a different kind of thinking into what design is and how you can actually use it to your own advantage. To actually design from your mind, getting back to this, think of users first. Then, how you experience your users is through your mind. How do you experience your users? How you experience your users is in your mind. Even if you do user testing and you have like a WhatsApp group of your users, even if they continuously give you feedback, you have to like get to understand that no, the things you're doing and the people that are going to use them, you will not always have these people. You won't always move around with them. You will be experiencing them within your mind, within your head. So always see your users using what you're doing in your head. And then once you do that, you will be able to design better because you will first and foremost envision what they are using. And then you'll be able to actually construct that same thing they're using in your head. And then you'll be able to, first and foremost, visualize, you'll be able to actually get to this point where you open up Figma in your mind, because I've already told you about visualizing experiences. Because once you experience users in your mind, then you'll be able to visualize the experiences, all these users in your mind, like how will they feel while using a specific product. So once you do that, then you'll be able to actually start visualizing these experiences still in your mind. And then once you do that, you'll be able to actually open up Figma and then just get the designs from your mind through your hand to the tool, which is Figma. And then you'll actually be able to construct the design. Like you'll get the rectangles, the lines, the triangles, the colors, the images from your mind. Because as you do user research, market analysis, user testing, as you're doing all these things, you're visualizing how your product is going to come about, how it's going to look like, the type of colors, how people will feel. You can visualize all these things in your mind because your mind is really powerful. So that is what this article is all about. Now, moving on, for the book of the week, you realize that the book of the week is user-friendly. How the hidden rules of design are changing the way we live, work, and play. You can get to know how the hidden rules of design are helping us live better by reading this book. This book was written by Cliff Kwang and Robert Fabricant. These are all UX designers, and they've worked for really huge organizations, huge design organizations. So I urge you to read this book. And in this book, you won't find any step-by-step process of how to design this. No, it's just the rules that are hidden, that we can't see, the mistakes, the Disneyland story, all the World War stories, and how design mistakes costed people's lives and money to companies, billions of money. It will show you how design has evolved from just rough metals that are added up together to how people started thinking. Like, where did that thinking come from that we need better things? We need better refined things. You get to know, and then you get to design better. I've read this book, and I'm just like left with a couple of pages. That's why I felt like I should actually recommend it there and then, because we need to think. Thinking is really important. So moving on to the next thing, which is our last part. First and foremost, I want to take you through like like the most things that really bring confusion without even going like really far. You get the first thing that you realize is this dark shadow, like this foreground, the overlay on the video.
Yeah.
Like you need to first of all just remove it because some people don't actually have the good sight that most of us have. Some people have like some color blindness. Other people like find it difficult watching things that are unclear. And then the next thing is for it to have like a boundary that is clear, so that it can be, so that it doesn't like go into the nerve bar. Even if it's icing, even if someone scrolls, it's still taking up a space of the nerve bar. I think you can see, right? So you also need to make sure that it's having its own boundary. Why? Because these landing pages, people usually spend quite a few minutes because people are always busy. Even if you tell someone, please check out my website, you have a date, it's Sunday. Take the entire day Sunday. Go through my website by force. They will also be like, okay, they'll just scroll through. Surprisingly. So let someone scroll through and they are getting that, when they're getting to understand. You understand? So the next thing are these titles. These titles are really, for example, this one is really long. Like someone can easily ignore reading anything above here because they feel like it's too much, and then it's also congested. And to make matters worse, it's in all caps. All caps is the most unreadable text. There's a book, I think I'll recommend it in our next workshop. It sort of like shows you how to sort of like, write like better text. It's called like how to get rid of like the words, like how like getting rid of like the extra words or the extra letters while writing. It's all about writing. You get. So I think I'll share that. It's all about UX writing, and UX writing entails writing this information that is supposed to appear on this nav bar. Moving on, you realize that there's so much white. Listen, like these titles are white. I have no problem with this label, even if it's white, but it should be another color, and it shouldn't be the same color as this and the same color as the logo. Someone sees this, are you seeing this section?
Yes.
They just see it as the same thing. So someone can actually easily get lost or easily ignore. To make matters worse, you can get lost. Getting lost can be a bit easy, but ignoring is like the worst thing. So moving on, I also talked about the brightness. I seeing these two colors. There's no contrast. Compare this first card to these last two cards. There's contrast here. This first one, I have no problem with it. This one is no contrast. No contrast. And the colors are really bright. Moving on, all caps. Without even reading, all caps is it is not scannable. Not readable. There's a difference. When you read about typography, you will get to know that the terminologies, readability, scannability. You read about terminologies that tell you about why you should be having paragraphs. Reasons as to why you should be having paragraphs, and reason as to why you shouldn't have long paragraphs. Are you seeing this paragraph here? It is for a book, not a landing page. You get it? So then the images in photography is what they call framing. You have to properly frame. At least these three individuals would have been together with what the kid was doing. A little bit of framing there. Yeah, there is no title to even if YouTube gives us this title, no one will see it. because no one cares. But no one cares. Even if someone should be, even if you tell someone that I'm going to imprison you so that you care, they will deep down. They will not. They will laugh at you in their heart. So you have to put the title here so that someone can actually get to know what this video is about. Then you also have to reduce on these items. There are so many. At least put a show more button here to show so that someone can actually click and then the list expands. And then show list so that it can. Now the other thing I realized was that you also have to make sure that there's enough contrast. We have an issue here with the capital, the long paragraph, the long list. Now, landing pages are not meant to carry text. They're not meant to explain what you do. They are meant to entice. You cannot tell someone I'm going to entice you, but you need to read. They'll run away. You have to create other pages, for example, like blog pages. You get it? Like press release. You know those other pages that you can put all this information regarding what you're doing. Then I also realized something here. Are you seeing that? 3 items are moving at the same time. I know this could be a WordPress widget, but you also need to control it. You also need to make sure that at least when someone scrolls like this, and they put this out of view, I know this was done intentionally to make sure that this entire thing scrolls, but you can make sure that first of all one scrolls, then as they're scrolling, another one scrolls, and then once they're finished, another one scrolls. You get it? So that someone doesn't get overwhelmed. Because for you, the owner of the website, you might think that the options are less. But when you put this website in front of a 50-year-old man, 45 years, a man who has kids, responsibilities, what? They'll be like, what is this? And by the way, people think that when someone is doing something, they are putting all their focus there. No. People always have like other billion thoughts once they're doing something because they need to move on to the next thing. They need to carry on with other activities. So not overwhelm them with so many options. One thing at a time. Then the next thing, avoid links that that don't go anywhere. I think this. For example, this one here, like just shows down here. If you can see where it shows the link, it shows just the hashtag means it just goes nowhere, just goes up. Then you also don't need this. You just need to make your logo better. Bigger, together with your slogan. It is this slogan that people want. Make it bigger. Make the logo bigger together with the slogan. Even here, make the slogan bigger. You get it? Because it's a slogan that tells you everything you're doing, isn't it? Yeah, so that was it for the audit. It was just as simple as that. Once you improve, then I will do another audit then until you get what you really want, until you get satisfied with the results that you want. So that was it for this specific workshop. We had some problems with the internet while starting out, but eventually solved that. It was just the weather is just getting a little bit cloudy. I think it's going to rain here, but eventually we've come to the last part of this specific workshop, that is staying connected. Please follow us on all our social media platforms, that is Twitter, together with LinkedIn. I also have a channel where we post these recordings that are produced by KlaGigs Media. KlaGigs Media, by the way, is it's an agency that is also part of the UX Chefs, but it does media work. All these presentations, the videos, So all this media work, it's done by KlaGigs Media. But thank you so much for coming through for our fourth workshop. I hope in the next workshop, I'll come well prepared with really stable internet, because these virtual workshops and meetings really get frustrating if at all someone is jumping off and on. But thank you so much for joining. Do you have some questions? It's hard time you question. You fire me with questions, and then you question me about what I've talked about today. So let me entertain questions, then we shall call it a day.
Thank you, first of all, for sharing. This was also very educative, and this was actually a thing you tackled some areas that I've been struggling with myself. Um, as you can even see in terms of my project. So I've been struggling with something that you mentioned earlier about what, like, where do I start from? I always get confused about that part. That's like the most difficult part that I've seen in UX. Is figuring out where to start from. Sometimes I could even have like a project, say a website, and the client wants to see an initial design. But it would take me like a full week. I could be like, okay, we come up with an initial layout in about a week or two, but I would spend those 2 weeks just blank. And on the last day is when I like try and think it and come out with something to paint. But so it's something that I've been really struggling with, coming up, like getting over that hurdle of coming up with an initial design. I like to do things that are unique, but is coming up with that thing that is unique. You get so sometimes I also tend to I'm a culprit. I tend so much to look at templates. Okay, somehow I feel like it's one way of that I used to get inspiration. Though I also feel like it takes me back a bit. It it limits my imagination. But but yeah, that's something that you talked about getting out. Maybe what I could ask from there, how for you, how do you get inspiration of starting? Because getting away from your computer may be something, but you may still get away and and come up with nothing. So how do you get inspiration of sketches of layouts? Is there something that you look at? Is there
Yeah, so I think that's why user research exists, because you have to think about like the sort of like the end result of what you're doing and how it actually influences people. So it is through user research that you can actually come up with how you can start, because once you're doing user research, you will get to see what your competitors are actually using, take screenshots, and then in the process, also get to know what can actually work for you, and relate that with your mission and what you're going to do better, or what you're going to change. So through that, you can get somewhere to start. So it is through relating the different ideas, the outcomes from your user research, where you can actually start. So that is where you need to start by collecting a lot of information through screenshots, doing data analysis, doing user interviews, focus groups. All those research methods are really helpful for you to actually get an initial drive, or to get started and moving forward. So I encourage you to always pick around information. When you see something that looks good, give it, take a screenshot, take a picture of it, do something extra so that you can actually remember or keep that information. So what I do is, once I've kept all this information, once I'm faced with a challenge, I just go back, read through this information, get inspiration, as I reflect back to the research I was making, as I reflect back to the end goal.
of what I really want. Then in the process, I can make my first line because my mind, I'm already constructing things in my mind. That's why I urge you to use your mind to always visualize. Creative thinking starts with visualizing, and that is why design is and art in general. You need to be a very good visualizer for you to come up with unique solutions. You need to be a very good visualizer. You need to visualize other people's solutions and how your unique solution is going to be different from those solutions. Meaning you need to first of all get to know how other people do their work, and that is through collecting this information through research, screenshots, pictures, build something in your mind, make your first line, make your first rectangle. But in the coming book, designing from scratch, I think I'll be going through. I'll be going over those things, and I hope to make a course for that, and then you'll be able to enjoy it.
Okay. Maybe just something else to add on was when you talked about AI. This is something that I was a bit kind of used to, more so when I'm trying to work with like a new technology that I do not know. I always end up going back to AI. But actually, this week was a very good week for me because it kind of helped me. Actually, when you talked about it, I also it and I it reminded me because I was struggling a lot with because I was using a lot of ChatGPT. Then I realized all the important information that I got it from documentation. But when I go back, when I feel like a bit overwhelmed by documentation, I go back to ChatGPT. I end up going back to documentation. So it's something that I appreciated, and it's something that I would recommend so much for even other people to get so much away from AI and try to use this other material, the written material. It has to go to function. And I hope that I witnessed this week, and because you're talking about it in this workshop, has so much solidified the point.
That is really interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that appreciation. Thank you so much for that observation too. You have other questions?
No.
Right. Thank you so much, Ines, for joining. So, and I hope to see you next Saturday.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So have a good weekend and see you soon.
All right. Have a good weekend.
All right. Cheers.